2026 is not your year unless you change this. 2026 is coming. The clock will strike midnight. Fireworks will explode. Resolutions will be spoken. Promises will be written. But hear this carefully, a new year does not guarantee a new life. A calendar page turns, and suddenly people believe something mystical has happened. Midnight strikes. Fireworks light up the sky. Music plays. People hug. They shout, "This is my year." But let me tell you something that may shake you. A new year does not carry power on its own. It is paper. It is a number. It is a date printed in ink. It has no ability to transform you. We treat the new year like a doorway into a different life, as if December 31st is a wall, and on the other side of it, everything is better. But if nothing changes within you, then January will feel exactly like July did. February will carry the same frustrations. March will expose the same weaknesses. And by June, you will quietly whisper, "Here we go again." The illusion of a new year is dangerous because it gives you hope without requiring change. It whispers, "Just wait. Next year will be better. Things will turn around." But waiting is not transformation. Time does not heal what you continue to rehearse. Time does not fix what you refuse to confront. Time does not renew a mind that is determined to think the same thoughts. If you enter 2026 with the same habits, the same reactions, the same emotional triggers, the same excuses, then 2026 will simply magnify them. You cannot carry yesterday's mindset into tomorrow's opportunity and expect a different result. Some of you are tired, not because the year was long, but because you were fighting battles inside your mind all year long. You smiled in public but struggled in private. You set goals but doubted yourself the entire way. You tried to move forward but kept replaying old disappointments. And now you're hoping a new number on the calendar will erase that weight. It won't. The pain you refuse to release will follow you. The fear you refuse to confront will greet you in January. The procrastination you justify today will visit you again next spring. A new year does not create discipline. It does not create courage. It does not create clarity. Those are choices. The illusion tells you that change is automatic. Reality says change is intentional. There are people who will enter 2026 excited, and by February they will be discouraged again. Why? Because excitement is not the same as transformation. Motivation fades, emotion settles, and when it does, what remains is who you truly are inside. If you want a different year, you must become a different person. Not a different personality, but a different mindset. A different response pattern. A different level of responsibility. Stop waiting for the clock to strike 12 as if it carries magic. The power is not in midnight. The power is in decision. The illusion of a new year says, "The year will change me." Truth says, "I must change to shape my year." Until you break that illusion, you will keep living in cycles, hopeful in January, overwhelmed in March, tired in June, reflective in December. But the moment you realize that transformation is not tied to a date, everything shifts, because then you stop waiting, and you start becoming. You wake up every morning thinking the battle is out there. You think it's the people who hurt you, the system that ignored you, the doors that never opened, the chances that slipped through your fingers. You tell yourself, if this changes, I'll be okay. If they apologize, I'll heal. If life becomes easier, I'll finally move forward. But the hardest truth you will ever face is this: The greatest resistance to your future is not outside of you. It is within you. There is a quiet enemy that doesn't shout, doesn't threaten, doesn't rush you. It whispers. It blends into your thoughts until you think it's your own voice. It says, be careful. Don't try too hard. What if you fail again? Remember what happened last time. And because it sounds reasonable, you listen. This enemy does not stop you with force. It stops you with fear. It does not chain your body. It exhausts your mind. It does not attack publicly. It wears you down privately. You can defeat obstacles and still lose the war if you never confront what lives inside. Some of you have mastered survival. You learned how to cope, how to endure, how to stay functional while silently bleeding. You learned how to smile while doubting yourself, how to keep going while carrying disappointment like a shadow. And over time, you mistook endurance for victory. But surviving is not the same as living. The hidden enemy feeds on unresolved pain. Every betrayal you never processed, every failure you never forgave yourself for, every moment you told yourself, I should be further by now, it all became fuel. You didn't notice when caution turned into fear, when wisdom turned into avoidance, when self-protection turned into self-sabotage. The enemy within tells you you're being realistic when really you're being restrained. It convinces you that lowering expectations is maturity, that not dreaming is wisdom, that playing small is safety, but safety has a cost. It costs you growth. It costs you purpose. It costs you the future you secretly still long for. Some of you are angry, but not at others, at yourself, because deep down you know there were moments you could have stepped forward and you didn't. Moments you could have spoken and stayed silent. Moments you could have believed and chose doubt instead. And now that anger has turned inward, the hidden enemy thrives there. It turns regret into identity. It turns mistakes into labels. It turns one failure into a lifelong sentence. You begin to say, this is just who I am. But that is not truth, that is surrender. The most dangerous prisons have no bars. They are built from repeated thoughts, reinforced by emotion, locked by habit. And here's the hardest part to hear. No one else can fight this battle for you. People can encourage you. Opportunities can present themselves. The year can change. But unless you confront the enemy within, the fear you've normalized, the doubt you've justified, the bitterness you've carried, nothing external will ever be enough. Freedom does not begin when circumstances improve. It begins when honesty breaks through denial. The moment you stop blaming everything outside, the moment you say, this ends with me, the moment you face what you've been avoiding, that is when the hidden enemy loses power, not because it disappeared, but because you finally saw it. And what is exposed can be defeated. Your future is not waiting on the world to change. It's waiting on you to rise and reclaim your inner ground. There is a silent contract you sign every single day, not with a pen, not with ink, but with your agreement. Every thought that enters your mind comes with a question. Asterisk, will you agree with me? Asterisk, most people think their destiny is shaped by luck, opportunity, connections, timing. But destiny is shaped long before any of those show up. It is shaped in the invisible space of agreement. When a thought whispers, you're not qualified, and you nod internally, that is agreement. When a memory says you failed before, you'll fail again, and you replay it, that is agreement. When fear says stay where it's safe, and you obey, that is agreement. Agreement is powerful because it gives permission. The moment you agree with a thought, you give it authority, and what has authority begins to influence your decisions. Your tone changes, your confidence shrinks, your posture shifts, your energy lowers, and slowly your life begins to align with what you agreed to. If you agree that you are always overlooked, you will interpret neutral situations as rejection. If you agree that you are not good enough, You will sabotage opportunities before they fully form. If you agree that nothing ever works out for you, you will stop trying with full effort. Agreement shapes perception. Perception shapes action. Action shapes results. And then you look at your results and say, "See, I knew it," not realizing you helped create the very outcome you feared. Some of you have unknowingly agreed with words spoken over you years ago, a teacher's criticism, a parent's frustration, a friend's betrayal, a moment of humiliation that felt small at the time but lodged deep in your spirit. You carried it, you rehearsed it, and over time it became truth to you. But just because a thought is loud does not mean it is true. Just because it is familiar does not mean it deserves agreement. You must become selective about what you authorize in your mind. The mind is not meant to be a hallway where every voice can walk freely. It is meant to be a guarded gate, and you are the gatekeeper. Agreement is not passive. It is active. You choose it. When doubt says, "You'll never change," you can answer, "I am not who I was." When fear says, "It's too risky," you can answer, "Growth always is." When shame says, "You're defined by your worst moment," you can answer, "I am still becoming." The power of agreement works both ways. If agreement with negativity can limit you, agreement with truth can liberate you. When you begin to agree with possibility, your posture changes. When you agree that you are capable of growth, you attempt what you once avoided. When you agree that your past does not own your future, courage rises quietly within you. Your life will always move in the direction of your strongest agreement. That is why two people can face the same storm and walk away differently. One agrees with defeat, the other agrees with resilience. You may not control every circumstance, but you control your agreement, and that changes everything. Because the moment you withdraw agreement from fear, it loses its permission to rule you. And the moment you align your agreement with strength, hope, and truth, your future begins to shift in ways you cannot yet see, but will soon live. Negative feelings don't usually arrive like a storm. They seep in quietly, a disappointment you never fully processed, a rejection you pretended didn't hurt, a comparison that made you feel small, a mistake you replayed one too many times. At first, it feels temporary. "I'll get over it," you say, but instead of leaving, it lingers. And what lingers long enough begins to settle. What settles begins to shape you. Breaking the cycle of negative feelings is not about pretending they don't exist. It's about refusing to let them become your identity. Fear, bitterness, and doubt are powerful because they disguise themselves as protection. Fear says, "I'm just keeping you safe." Bitterness says, "I'm just making sure you don't get hurt again." Doubt says, "I'm just being realistic." But what starts as protection slowly becomes a prison. Fear keeps you from stepping into rooms you prayed for. Bitterness poisons moments that were meant to be joyful. Doubt convinces you to shrink when life is calling you to rise, and the cycle continues. You feel hurt, so you withdraw. You withdraw, so you miss opportunity. You miss opportunity, so you feel regret. Regret feeds more negativity. Round and round it goes. Some of you are not tired because life is hard. You're tired because carrying unresolved emotion is heavy. Smiling while overthinking, showing up while feeling insecure, celebrating others while questioning yourself. That is exhausting. Breaking the cycle begins with honesty. Not public honesty, private honesty. The kind where you sit alone and admit, "This hurt me more than I let on. I'm afraid of trying again. I'm angry and I don't know how to release it." Healing cannot begin where denial lives. You cannot suppress your way into freedom. What you bury alive does not die, it grows roots. But here is the turning point. Feelings are real, but they are not rulers. They are indicators, not dictators. Just because you feel fear does not mean you must obey it. Just because you feel doubt does not mean you must agree with it. Just because you feel bitterness does not mean you must nurture it. Emotions demand attention, but they do not deserve control. You break the cycle by interrupting it. When fear rises, instead of retreating, take one small step forward. Action weakens anxiety. When bitterness whispers, choose forgiveness not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. When doubt screams, remind yourself of every time you survived what you thought would break you. Your mind learns through repetition. If you repeatedly rehearse pain, pain strengthens. If you repeatedly choose courage in small moments, courage grows. Breaking the cycle is not dramatic. It is daily. It is choosing not to replay the insult, choosing not to compare, choosing not to assume the worst, choosing to speak to yourself with the same grace you offer others. Some days you will fail. You will slip back into old patterns. But slipping is not the same as surrendering. The cycle breaks the moment you become aware of it and decide, this will not control me anymore. Negative feelings may visit you, but they do not have to live with you, and the day you stop feeding them is the day they begin to lose their strength. There comes a moment in every life that does not look dramatic. No music plays, no spotlight shines, no crowd applauds. It is quiet, almost invisible, and yet that moment has the power to redirect everything. We often think change must be massive to matter. A huge breakthrough, a life-altering opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime event, but history, both personal and collective, turns on decisions that seemed small at the time. The turning point is not a feeling, it is a decision. It is the moment you get tired of your own excuses, the moment you look at your reflection and say, no more, the moment you stop blaming yesterday for tomorrow. For some of you, the turning point will not be when doors open. It will be when you decide to knock again after being rejected. It will be when you apply one more time, when you forgive one more time, when you try again, even though part of you is afraid to hope again. That decision may feel fragile. Your hands may shake when you make it. Your voice may tremble when you declare it. But heaven and earth move differently when a human being truly decides. The turning point is when you stop negotiating with your fear. You've lived long enough with hesitation. You've analyzed, overthought, delayed. You've said, when I feel more confident, when I have more money, when things calm down. But confidence rarely comes before movement. Clarity often follows obedience. Strength grows after resistance. The turning point is when someday becomes today. It's when you wake up and realize that waiting has cost you more than trying ever will. Some of you have been standing at the edge of your next season for years, not because you lack ability, but because you haven't made the decision to step fully into it. You've kept one foot in comfort and one foot in calling, but transformation requires both feet. A turning point may look like waking up earlier to build what you've been dreaming about. It may look like cutting off what drains you. It may look like seeking help instead of hiding struggle. It may look like finally confronting what you've been avoiding. It may even look like surrender, letting go of a version of your life you've outgrown. And here is the powerful truth. Once a decision is made at the deepest level, your actions begin to align with it. Your posture shifts, your words change, your habits slowly adjust. Not because someone forced you, but because you chose. Choice carries force. One decision can break generational cycles. One decision can restore a broken relationship. One decision can shift your entire direction. You don't need 10 resolutions. You need one solid decision. One moment where you say, I will not live like this anymore. One moment where you declare, I choose growth over comfort. One moment where you stop dipping your toe in the water and finally dive. The turning point is not about perfection. It's about commitment, and once that commitment is real, deeply real, even setbacks cannot undo it. They may slow you, but they won't stop you, because you've crossed an invisible line, and once you cross it, you cannot go back to who you were before you decided. There is a law woven into life. that no one escapes. You cannot step into a new season carrying an old spirit. You cannot pour fresh water into a polluted well and expect it to taste clean. You can change your environment. You can change your circle. You can change your routines. But if your inner world remains untouched, the outer world will eventually reflect it. We try so hard to rearrange the outside, new goals, new planners, new strategies, new connections, but the same insecurity, the same jealousy, the same fear of failure, the same need for validation, and we wonder why nothing truly shifts. Transformation is not cosmetic. It is internal. You can learn new skills and still think like the person who failed 5 years ago. You can gain new opportunities and still react from old wounds. You can receive love and still struggle to believe you deserve it. Because the spirit you carry determines the life you sustain. If you carry a defensive spirit, you will see attack where there is none. If you carry a wounded spirit, you will interpret correction as rejection. If you carry a bitter spirit, even blessings will feel incomplete. The law of inner transformation is simple but demanding. What changes within you determines what changes around you. Some of you are praying for elevation but resisting refinement. You want greater responsibility, but you still avoid discipline. You want deeper relationships, but you haven't healed from past betrayal. You want peace, but you rehearse anxiety daily. Growth requires shedding, and shedding is uncomfortable. It means letting go of thought patterns that once felt familiar. It means releasing grudges that once felt justified. It means surrendering identities built around pain. Who are you without the story of how you were wronged? Who are you without the excuse of your past? Who are you without the fear that has quietly defined your choices? Inner transformation feels like loss before it feels like freedom. Because you are not just gaining strength, you are losing old versions of yourself. But here is the beauty: when the inside shifts, everything begins to realign. When your spirit becomes disciplined, your habits follow. When your heart becomes grateful, your perspective changes. When your mind becomes renewed, your decisions grow wiser. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop chasing validation. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You begin to move with quiet confidence, not loud arrogance, steady assurance. And suddenly, opportunities that once intimidated you no longer do. Conversations that once triggered you no longer shake you. Delays that once discouraged you no longer define you. Because you changed, not your circumstances first. The world responds differently to someone who is internally aligned. Peace becomes your foundation instead of panic. Purpose becomes your direction instead of pressure. Faith becomes your posture instead of fear. And when that shift happens, a new season is no longer something you chase. It is something you are prepared to sustain. That is the law. Change within, and you will be strong enough to carry what is coming. Refuse to change within, and even blessings will feel heavy. The new year is not waiting for a better version of your circumstances. It is waiting for a transformed version of you.